Think you've heard it all? Well, you're in for a surprise because today I'm diving into 25 crazy facts that are bound to catch you by surprise. From the bizarre moment in history when golf was actually banned to the jaw-dropping era when women were prohibited from smoking in public, and even some ancient secrets like what people used to use for lube and contraception back in the day. Trust me, you're gonna want to get comfortable for this one. I'm Mike with List 25, and here are 25 crazy facts that'll shock you. 25. The explosive nature of the herpes virus. Cold sores are annoying enough on their own, but did you know the virus behind them is basically a microscopic cannon? Yes, the herpes simplex virus 1, or HSV1, which causes those vexing lip blisters, has an internal pressure 8 times higher than a car tire. The insane pressure allows the virus to basically blast its infectious DNA straight into your cells, and the HSV1 virus is not the only one. Scientists from the American Chemical Society discovered that this pressure-driven mechanism is also a critical step in how other similar viruses, like those causing chickenpox, shingles, and mononucleosis, infect our human cells. It could be used as a target for future treatments. 24. The plight of the hungry. If you or I feel hungry, we could just, simply walk to the kitchen and grab a snack. But for millions of people, 1 in 10 to be exact, it's not that easy. It's especially bad in developing countries. People in Bangladesh, China, the Democratic Republic of the Congo, Ethiopia, India, Indonesia, and Pakistan have it especially bad. In fact, to put it into perspective, over 40% of the world's hungry live in China and India alone. That means that while hunger might be a global issue, it's concentrated in specific places. So targeted action is needed to address the crisis where it's most severe. 23. Mobile madness. Have you ever heard of a sport where tossing your phone is the main event? Well, should your cell phone be irritating you, you might want to head on over to the World Mobile Phone Throwing Championships held annually in Savonlinna, Finland. Here, competitors aren't just aiming for a high score in Angry Birds, they're aiming to launch their phones as far as possible. The current world record? An impressive 110.42 meters. Alexa, what's 110.42 meters in feet? Great. Alexa? Yeah, damn it. 22. Spain's influence on cigar popularity. Christopher Columbus might have introduced tobacco to Europe, but the Spanish colonists in Cuba made it a global sensation. After Columbus discovered it, the Spanish colonists quickly started growing it. And by 1542, Cuba had its first cigar factory. Their efforts kicked off the Cuban cigar craze. But it wasn't all smooth sailing. King Philip V of Spain slapped on a tobacco monopoly in 1717 and kept tight control over production and trade. The restrictions were finally lifted in 1820, and Cuban cigars became favorites of connoisseurs worldwide. And I am from Tampa, otherwise known as Cigar City. Home of the Cuban, suck it, Miami. It was not invented there, it was invented in Tampa. Oh, I will fight, at me, I will fight anyone. The Cuban is tampon. Yes, we're called tampons. I know, okay? I've heard it. 21. Do enamel toothpastes actually work? The short answer is no. Once enamel is gone, it's not coming back. What toothpaste can do, however, is help protect and strengthen the enamel you still have. Fluoride in particular helps by drawing in minerals like calcium and phosphate to support your teeth. Try sticking with fluoride toothpaste and try to cut down on acidic foods and drinks like sports drinks and soda, which can wear it down. You might not be able to replace enamel that's already been lost, but you can definitely take steps to protect what's left and keep your smile healthy. 20. The healing hormone. Oxytocin, often called the love hormone or the cuddle chemical, is well known when it comes to human bonding, empathy, and attachment. But did you know it does more than just boost those warm, fuzzy feelings? Recent research shows that oxytocin can actually help your body heal faster from physical wounds and even make you more resilient to stress. So while it's busy helping you bond with others, it's also working behind the scenes to help you recover and handle stress better. 19. NASA once faced a mutiny in space. Space is fascinating, but it's not without its challenges. Well, just ask NASA. In 1974, during the Skylab 4 mission, 3 astronauts spent 84 days in space, the longest anyone had at the time. And, as it turns out, that was a bit too long. The stress, strict schedules, and heavy workload took a serious toll on the crew, leading to what's known as the first, and only, mutiny in space. About a month before their mission ended, the astronauts decided they had had enough. They turned off radio communication with Mission Control and took an unplanned day off just to relax and enjoy the view of Earth from orbit. The next day, they were back on the job, but NASA wasn't exactly thrilled. After Skylab 4, NASA made sure that future missions also included time for a bit of R&R. 18. The cat telephone experiment. In 1929, two Princeton University scientists conducted one of the most bizarre experiments in history. They turned a living cat into a telephone. They sedated the cat, opened its skull, and attached a telephone wire to its auditory nerve. The other end of the wire was connected to a telephone receiver 50 feet away. When Bray spoke into the cat's ears, Weaver could hear his voice through the receiver. The students proved that sound frequencies remained constant as they passed along the auditory nerve and, disturbingly, that the setup only worked when it was connected to the auditory nerve. Any other tissue or nerve and the phone would fail. Now, it pains me to say that this odd experiment actually laid the groundwork for cochlear implants, which have since transformed the lives of many deaf people. Unfortunately, there was no happy ending for the cat. Following the initial experiment, the researchers decided to terminate its life and conduct a repeat trial. Their second attempt failed. 17. The time golf got banned. Did you know that in 1450s England, golf was once considered so problematic that it was banned? Back in 1457, the Parliament under James II decided that golf, along with football, or soccer, was becoming too much of a distraction. Why? Well, the general consensus was that these sports were interfering with the practice of archery, a crucial skill needed for military training during those times. So, to ensure that archers stayed focused, golf was actually prohibited on Sundays. The ban was finally lifted in 1502. 16. The 1920s smoking ban for women. Until the late 1920s, women in the US faced their very own special kind of prohibition: smoking in public. Back then, a woman lighting up outside her home wasn't just frowned upon, it was seen as downright vulgar. So, in 1922, New York Alderman Peter McGinnis decided to take things a step further by proposing a city ordinance that would ban women from smoking in hotels, restaurants, and other public spaces. And it worked. The men managed to keep the women in line with rigid social norms, and they left their cigarettes at home. Although smoking is bad for anyone, so don't. 15. South Africa's new defense against poachers. Scientists at the University of the Witwatersrand in Johannesburg, South Africa, have come up with an inventive way to safeguard rhinos. They're using tiny radioactive chips embedded in the rhino's horns. This technology makes tracking the horns incredibly precise, which means it's nearly impossible for poachers to smuggle them without getting caught. The chips don't harm the rhinos, and only need a quick update every 5 years. With rhino poaching on the rise, this new method couldn't have come at a better time. If it proves successful, it could be expanded to protect other endangered animals, like elephants and tigers, giving wildlife protection a much-needed tech upgrade. 14. From stirrups to style. High heels have had a fascinating history that goes way beyond fashion. They first became popular in the 10th century when Persian cavalrymen wore high-heeled boots to help them stay in the stirrups while shooting arrows from horseback. By the early 17th century, women started wearing them to protest the fact that men's shoes were more comfortable. Ironically, the early heels were actually much more comfortable than spiked platform shoes that were trendy at the time. As a result, what started as a practical military tool turned into a bold fashion statement. 13. Stench warfare. During World War II, the American Office of Strategic Services, or OSS, came up with a pretty unique weapon of war. They developed a chemical compound that smelled just like poop, intended to be used against German commanders. The idea was to spray the chemical on the enemy, causing them embarrassment and discomfort. However, things didn't go as planned, as the person doing the spraying often ended up smelling just as bad as the target. Seeing the error of their ways, the plan was quickly scrapped. Or flushed, I should say. 12. The Soviet Union's underground vinyl. After World War II, the Soviet government clamped down on almost all music, especially Western music. They even banned a lot of Russian music if it was seen as unofficial, or if the artist was considered a traitor. But the people's love for music couldn't be contained. To get around these bans, some clever Soviets started using old X-ray plates to make secret records. These discs, known as bones or ribs, were full of skeletal images and packed with forbidden tunes everyone was dying to hear. 11. The Glass King. King Charles VI of France had a truly bizarre condition known as glass delusion. People suffering from this condition believe that their bodies are made of glass. As a result, Charles wore special clothing reinforced with iron rods for added protection. He even went so far as to keep his advisors at a distance, fearing that any sudden movements would make him shatter. 10. The wolf within. In the past, cancer was often referred to as the wolf. In fact, the unusual term can be traced back as far as the 13th century. The unsettling metaphor stuck around for centuries and found itself in the literary spotlight in 1615 thanks to clergyman Thomas Adams. In his sermons, especially the Black Devil or the Apostate, together with the wolf wearing the lambs and the spiritual navigator bound for the Holy Land, Adams' comparison not only reflected the fearsome nature of the disease, but also tapped into broader anxieties about destruction and corruption in society, highlighting our historical struggle to understand the disease and to confront its horrors. 9. Ancient lubrication. In ancient Greece, olive oil wasn't just for cooking. It was also used as, well, let's just say, personal lubricant. In fact, the Greeks and Romans were already using this versatile substance to enhance their intimate experiences as early as 350 BCE. And it makes sense once you realize that at one point in time, the ancient cultures had moved beyond their hunter-gatherer roots and had the luxury to explore various aspects of life, including agriculture, philosophy, and yep, even their sex lives. 8. Ancient contraception. Well, since I'm already exploring the ancient Greeks and Romans' intimate lives, I should probably also take a look at their innovative approach to contraception. One standout method involved a plant called silphium. By around the 6th century CE, the people in the Greek and Roman colony of Cyrene, in what's now Libya, ground up the plant's heart-shaped leaves and consumed them, making it one of the earliest known contraceptives. Silphium would later become incredibly valuable, so much so that it was worth its weight in silver, and the Cyrenians made a fortune selling it around the Mediterranean. However, silphium had a downside. It couldn't be farmed. Despite their best efforts, including stringent regulations to control its harvest, the plant eventually went extinct. By the time of Pliny the Elder, only a single stalk was said to have survived, and, well, it was sent to Emperor Nero. 7. The unexpected pen pals. How familiar are you with Russian literature? Some of you might be better acquainted with Dostoevsky's tumultuous life, but let me tell you, Tolstoy's life was truly fascinating. Tolstoy, with his deep thoughts on society and his unwavering quest for peace, was a true advocate for nonviolence and tolerance, and his book, The Kingdom of God is Within You, made a huge impact on Mahatma Gandhi. So much so that in October 1909, Gandhi reached out to Tolstoy and the two men began exchanging letters until Tolstoy's death in 1910. Tolstoy's ideas about love and nonviolence would go on to deeply influence Gandhi's activism and spiritual views. His thoughts also touched other major figures like Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., Nelson Mandela, and the Dalai Lama. 6. Hair power. Our hair is often celebrated as our crowning glory. And why not? It's shiny, beautiful, and a source of pride. But did you know that our hair is also incredibly strong? It can stretch up to 1.5 times its original length before breaking. And if you gathered all the hair on a single head, about 100,000 strands, it could support up to 12 tons. That is the weight of 2 elephants. 5. Dirty hair, cleaner air. And since I'm on the subject of hair, did you know that greasy hair might actually help you breathe a bit easier? Researchers at the University of Missouri found that unwashed hair absorbs 7 times more ozone than clean. According to their research, ozone reacts with the oils in dirty hair, reducing the ozone concentration around your head compared to the levels in the room. However, before you ditch your shampoo, keep in mind that the chemicals in hair care products can also interact with ozone, sometimes creating even more harmful substances. So rather opt for non-toxic, gentle hair care products. 4. Your earwax increases when you're anxious. Feeling stressed or anxious? Your feelings of anxiety might be affecting your ears. When you're under stress, your body releases the stress hormone cortisol, which ramps up sweat production. This boost in sweat can lead to an increase in earwax production. So those moments of anxiety and fear could literally be piling up in your ears. 3. 17th century monks survived Lent on beer. For those of you unfamiliar with Lent, it's a time during the year that some Christians spend fasting and reflecting, mirroring Christ's own 40-day desert journey. For the 17th century Catholic monks at the Kloster Neuweg-Abderau in Munich, this period of fasting was no joke. They faced a strict no-food rule for the entire 40 days. But these monks weren't just going to sit around and starve. Since they were allowed to drink, they came up with a brilliant solution. Beer. They brewed a special hearty brew known as monk beer, packed with the carbohydrates and nutrients they needed to get through their long days of prayer and work. This clever concoction not only helped them keep their energy up, but also stayed true to their fast. And in the spirit of generosity, any surplus was either shared with the local poor or sold at a discounted rate, helping the community as well. 2. Why Hershey's chocolate makes people go, yuck. According to some, Hershey's chocolate tastes a bit like vomit. Yeah, you heard me right. According to a 2017 Daily Mail article, American chocolate, particularly Hershey's, has a notorious reputation for tasting tangy and slightly sour when compared to European chocolate. The culprit? Butyric acid, a compound also found in rancid butter, Parmesan cheese, and, well, unfortunately, vomit. Hershey's insists they don't add any of that on purpose. They claim it's just a natural byproduct of the way they process their milk. But hey, who cares? If it tastes good to you, that's all that matters. And let's be honest, Hershey's has a pretty loyal following for a reason. 1. The founder who risked it all. If you've ever taken the plunge and started your own business, you know the roller coaster it can be, especially when the cash starts to dry up. In the early days of FedEx, founder Frederick W. Smith found himself in a real bind. With the company on the brink and banks consistently denying his loan requests, he was facing a critical situation. In a move straight out of a high-stakes thriller, Smith decided to take a gamble. Literally. He took FedEx's last $5,000 and headed to Las Vegas, and ended up walking away with $27,000. Using that unexpected cash boost, Smith was able to cover a huge gas bill and kept FedEx running for another week. And as we all know, the company eventually recovered from its early financial crisis. And that's a wrap. And if you enjoyed today's list, you will definitely want to check out the one I did a while ago on 25 jaw-dropping facts you never learned in school, where I looked into some truly unbelievable stories, like how Poland sent the US a birthday card with 5.5 million signatures, and even how a Paris orphanage once gave out live babies as prizes. Yeah, I'm not kidding. And if that piqued your curiosity, simply click on this link right here, and I will see you next time. Or there, I'll see you there. Depends what you do. If you click there, I'll be there. If you click a different video, I'll be there too. All the clicking.